So welcome, folks. And I've even got it on my screen, so I should be able to read that. But welcome to the September meetup. We're going to be doing modern collaboration in Excel with Avani Reddy. And basically, we've already done our sort of meeting opening right now in chat time. So we're just moving into the welcome and overview, and then we're going to kick off the presentation shortly. And I know that Avani said she has about probably 45, 50 minutes worth of content. So lots of time for questions and whatnot as well. So that's a great thing. Before we get started, I just want to say a big thanks to the sponsors. Excel Guru is my company that puts all of these meetups together and hosts them and MCs them and whatnot. SkillWave is our training division. This is where we have awesome training content on Excel and Power BI and all kinds of good stuff. Microsoft is a huge supporter of ours, both providing us speakers like tonight, as well as the software through my MVP stuff that actually keeps this thing going. And I also want to throw a shout out to Monkey Tools. If you are building data models in Excel or in Power BI and you want to be able to do that job faster and audit things that are there, you should check out my Monkey Tools add-in. Just a quick note on the SkillWave side of things. I want to let everybody know that we actually have a huge sale going on right now. This is our biggest sale of the year. Through until Sunday at midnight Pacific time, you can get a 20% discount on all of our courses. And if you haven't checked out our catalog, you should do that. You can find that at skillwave.training/shop. Our next meetup's coming up on Thursday, on September 23rd. We will be having Peter Myers join us from Australia. He's coming back again. I think this is going to be his fourth or fifth visit to Vancouver, although some of them have, of course, been virtual. He's going to be covering demystifying Power BI data sets. Looking forward to that. Peter always does a great presentation. And then I'm super excited that for our next Excel track, we're actually going to be welcoming my friend Michael Olufusi, all the way from Nigeria, is going to be coming in and talking to us about using Excel for your personal finance. So I need to check the start time on this one, though, because I believe that we've actually put this one a little bit earlier because 6 p.m., if I recall, on the West Coast, is something like 2 in the morning for Michael. So we'll check back on that one and make sure. I know it's scheduled correctly. I believe it's scheduled correctly in Meetup. But, yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that one. Second to last slide, I want to let you know, Master Your Data for Excel and Power BI is now available in digital edition. If you haven't picked that up, you can pick that up at skillwave.training. This is the second edition of my book, M is for Data Monkey. It is not available yet at Amazon, but you can get your PDF from us today, as well as we will shortly be uploading the Kindle formats for that as well. So if you want to read it on your Kindle device, you can do so. We still are waiting on news for when we can actually announce our physical copies, but worst case, they will be shipping through Amazon as of November 1. The last thing I want to throw out there before we kick this over to our featured speaker for tonight is if you want to come on our stage and talk about cool things that you're doing with Excel or Power BI, we love welcoming new speakers. Please go and fill out the survey here at excelguru.ca/speakatvanpug. We would love to have you. All you got to do is fill out the form. We'll get in touch and we will get you out here to participate in our little forum. All right, now. That's all I've got for you for today. That's all the promos done. So I'm actually going to kick it over to Avani, who is our featured speaker today from the Excel team. So Avani, if you want to share your screen, that would be fantastic. And just to let everybody know as well, you're on mute as well, Avani. There you go. Just to let everybody know with this one here, Avani is happy to take questions as we go along. If you want to fire those into the chat, I will bring them up and let her know about those. She's hoping it'll be an interactive question with interactive session with lots of your questions. And that's it for me for right now. So Avani, the floor is yours.
Great. Okay, mute came off. Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, while I'm waiting for my slides to come present into this deck or into this, you know what? It's saying it's having some issues. Let me try it again.
I can actually see your slide deck, so
sweet.
Looks okay from this side.
Right when I go to cancel.
Perfect.
Awesome. Hi, folks. My name's Avani Reddy. I'm a program manager on the Excel team. I specifically work on Excel collaboration features, and happy to be here to talk to y'all today about Collab and Excel. Like Ken said, open to questions. This is a very interactive environment. Feel free to, type them in the chat and you can call them out or raise your hand or whatever works best. So what I really want to walk through today is I'll do a quick intro to the team who's not here, but you can see how many folks we have working globally all over the world on collaboration. And then I wanted to touch a little bit about how COVID has impacted the way we work. We were talking a little bit about it at the beginning of this meeting, but it's really influenced the way we see collaboration in Excel and in Office today. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I have some demos for y'all, and then I'll talk through, what's new and what's coming next in the product related to collaboration. So this is a little snippet of our team. We have 8 folks who sit on the Redmond team here right outside of Seattle. We have 2 folks who sit on our Israel team and 3 who sit on our India team who all focus on collab. So we're pretty globally spread, and we all really care about the collab experience. So before we start, I actually have a survey here today. I'd love if folks could take like 2 minutes just to fill it out. It's literally 2 questions, will not take long. I just want to kind of understand where everyone's coming from collaboration wise, like what, how much do you know, what kind of features do you use today at a high level?
Avani, would you be able to drop that into the chat window?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be awesome. Saves a little bit of typing. And just a quick question. I believe I know the answer to this one, but the Excel and Power BI stuff, that's not really your team, is it, for answering questions on the new features that are happening there?
It is not, but if you have questions and want me to direct them to the right folks, I can do that and get back to y'all.
Fair enough. I know Aziz has a question on what's sort of happening in there for things, but I mean, I can actually direct him to the 2 guys that are involved in that, if as long as they don't mind me sharing their email address. That's all. So.
Yeah. And I can share the slides later also.
Okay, fair enough. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Looks like we've got lots of people who have collaborated with others. This is great. Cool. I will continue on then. That's just really good to know, having prefaced that. So I wanted to jump a little bit into how COVID has really impacted how people are collaborating in Office today. And all of y'all know this. I'm sure everyone here has been affected in some way or another by the pandemic and the way that they're working. But before COVID, only 15% of businesses had flexible work policies in place. So we were hardly seeing people that were fully remote or constantly having to work in a hybrid situation. And that was just the way it was before the pandemic. And by summer 2020, we see that number jumping to 76%. So that's an incredibly massive jump. And suddenly people are just expecting to be able to collaborate and being forced into this world of, cloud-based collaboration. And looking back at it now, 88% of these companies are expecting remote work to be a significant part of their future. So we're expecting to see remote or hybrid workflows in the future, which, I mean, we're already seeing at Microsoft. I'm sure folks are seeing at their companies as well. And we all know, like, after 2 years at home, folks have become really comfortable working remotely, and they're developing better setups to remain remote. And these make collaboration super critical today. We see feedback, these are just some snippets from like Forbes articles and from other articles that we found online. But folks are saying that as they're working through COVID, it's really challenging to feel connected, to communicate effectively with their teams, and really feel like they're getting that like in-office seamless collaboration experience. And on the other hand, like it's really forced everybody into this cloud era. Now everyone is having to save their files into the cloud, OneDrive, SharePoint, and collaborate on them as a result. So this brings us to Office's collaboration objectives. We want to build the product in a way that allows you to continue to collaborate and feel connected and work with others in a hybrid or fully remote environment. With cloud-backed files, you can access your files from anywhere and collaborate with others, regardless of where they're sitting in the world. With Teams integrated with Office, you can feel more connected and productive. And just from a Microsoft perspective, our team is always looking to build products with a diverse and inclusive set of customers in mind, so everyone can feel empowered to get their work done. So what does that exactly mean for what our investments actually are? So I've listed some of the features here, and we'll jump into what these features actually are in my demo. Before that, I just wanted to open the floor to discussion and just ask folks, how are you collaborating for work today? What are some major workflows that y'all are collaborating on, in a hybrid environment or fully remote?
I'm just laughing because I see in the chat that Henry says that they're collaborating by sending files to and fro, which I think is pretty much classic way of doing that stuff.
That's one way to do it. There are better ways, but
we got an MS
Teams
Teams group. How about any others? I know we actually share documents. Oh, Google Speak. I've had words there. SharePoint as well. I'm curious with the SharePoint side whether that actually means you're sharing your Excel files through SharePoint or whether that means you're actually doing it in Excel Online, because that's definitely a different sort of experience.
So when your file sits in SharePoint, you can actually open it in the web or in desktop. It's still cloud backed. So you can co-author in a desktop file. It's not like desktop doesn't mean it's offline per se, which I think a lot of folks have that misconception.
Yeah, I'm curious on that because I know that for us certainly, I mean I've seen where we've had people in from somebody's in through Teams, somebody's in through Excel Online, somebody's in through desktop, somebody's in on their phone. So there's lots of different ways to get at it, but the experience is definitely different between each one of those things. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of SharePoint in the chat. Some co-authoring on desktop, Planner. I think I see a little bit of Spanish there.
Yeah, I can't help with that one.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of folks that look like they've, collaborated with folks, stored their files in the cloud on OneDrive or SharePoint, or done something like that in their workflow. So hopefully some of the features and the tips and tricks I'll share are helpful. So demo time. Let's see how this works. So basically what I'm going to do is just walk through a sample workflow for you. And then what we can do afterwards is just kind of talk in the nitty gritty of what all those features that I showed were and how they work and what kind of benefit they provide to you.
So Avani, just to let you know, I've lost the view of your desktop if you're still sharing it. So.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. It's just taking a minute over here.
No worries.
Between me on the internet and my husband also working at the same time, usually in meetings, it sometimes is a little bit slow. All right, can y'all see my screen?
I can see it, you bet.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So basically what we've got here is I just want everyone to know this is completely fake data. We have these really awesome, like, demo tenants is what we call them, that basically mimic a company, and our marketing team has put together a bunch of fake information and fake interactions and things like that help us show some really cool demos. But don't feel like you're creeping on somebody's email or anything like that. That's not what this is. And what we've got here is on the left and the right-hand side, I'm trying to show two people collaborating. So on the right-hand side, we have Patty's account. So you can see Patty Fernandez is logged in over here. And over here, we have Lee Gu's account. And this is Excel desktop, if you can see. So we're on desktop over here, and we are on the web over here. And the workflow I want to start out with is, imagine that we're Patty, and we've got a cloud-based file that's been shared with us. Lee wants to share it over to us because he wants us to review this file, something in this file over here. So you can see from this email, here's the document that Lee has shared with you. And it even tells you here, this link will work for anybody. I already have the file open just to avoid that extra open time. And yeah, so we're in this file here. I wanted to call out too, if you look up here at the top, notice that we have editing access. So, you can provide, when you share the file, you can turn the different types of accesses on. So I, as Patty in Lee's file, can make any edits that I want. But if he wanted to share it as view only, just viewing the file, so imagine you're in like a more finalized version of the file, then that might be a better way to share the file with me. Also clicking around a little bit, I see that Lee is active in the cell over here, right? So we can see his presence in the cell. We can also see his little icon up here that's telling us he's editing cell A13. So let's say that for some specific reason, Patty wants to see the extra time reasons under this fake data. This is, incorrect or unexpectedly incurred engineering costs. And she sees that there's other people in the file. Lee also notices that Patty's in the file over here. So Ken mentioned this earlier, but a great way to sort and filter your data while other people are in your file is to use a feature called Sheet View. So we want to go over to the View tab. So we'll do that for both here. And I'm going to enter a sheet view. So we've just clicked this new button on Sheet View that you can see is on both desktop and on web. And if you noticed, all of the borders turned black. You can see where the View tab has been highlighted over here, and it says temporary view for both Lee and for Patty. And so Patty's going to come here and just filter. She just wants to see this extra time one. And this is a really cool way to collaborate because, what was happening before is if you're both in the file at the same time and somebody sorts or filters your data, the other person says, oh my God, the data's been deleted, or, I've lost my data. I don't know what just happened. Or you're just annoyed because somebody else sorted the data and you were looking at it. This allows you to just focus on what you need to do without being impacted by others. So she enters a sheet view and she's taking a look at that extra time. I am going to quickly switch over here to web for Lee because I want to show y'all feature in the web. So I put Lee in the web on this file and in the desktop on this file just so I can show y'all the most cutting edge features that we're working to bring to desktop right now, but aren't necessarily there yet. So let's say that Lee notices, hey, this number, this is super strange. Like what's going on over here? he can make a comment to Patty and say, Patty, can you take a look at this number? And another thing we can do is actually assign this task to Patty. That will ensure that, hey, Patty sees this. She knows that she's got a task assigned to her, and she has to go and address that task. So you have to mark that it's confirmed. So we'll go ahead and we'll assign that task to Patty Fernandez. And I'm going to exit my sheet view over here. So if you want to keep this view and come back to it later, you can definitely do that. Patty's view. And what's really cool is you can always come back and revisit that view if that's something that you need to do on a regular basis. So I noticed that Lee has made this comment to me in this cell over here, right? Can you take a look at this number? It's been assigned to me. Yeah, that looks funny. I think this must have accidentally been put in there. This number is probably supposed to be something else. So let's change that back. Let's mark the task as complete and leave that there. And you can even respond and continue to comment in the thread before you close out the task if you want, or, reopen that.
Avani, you've got a question in the chat right now is about the version for this thing. Is it only an Office 365 thing, or do other Excel versions also have the features that we're seeing here?
So it is an O365 thing. These features are available for cloud-backed files, so specifically files that are stored in OneDrive or SharePoint. I think that's really the main contingency.
Out of curiosity, just to follow up on that, if somebody's running a SharePoint on premises, so they're not actually using the Office 365 version, would these features appear for them, or is it like definitely an O365 only thing?
It's an O365 feature set. Yeah, on-prem, we don't support co-authoring on right now.
Fair enough. You've also got another question. Is there a task list view for review rather than having them scattered around the workbook?
Not yet. That's a great piece of feedback and one that we'll take into mind. And there is another feature that I will show y'all that is helpful for taking a look at all of the comments, replies, @mentions, and tasks for you. I'll show you guys in a second. One thing that I'll note, I just got the little sound noise for, is we also send notifications whenever you're assigned a task and you're @mentioned. And what's really cool about these notifications is that they're super contextual. So you can see in here, this is the value. This is what I've commented on. It shows the adjacent cells. So this was the cell before it. This is the cell after it, that entire row. And it shows what I've been tagged and asked to do. I can even reply in here to that comment without actually having to go in the sheet like, this must be a mistake. And see how it re-renders in here and shows that entire interaction. So, Patty's taking a look at some of the other cells and she's thinking, I think some changes have been made in this worksheet. I'm not really sure who made the changes and what they are, but some of these values don't look exactly correct. There's actually a pretty easy way to go through and look at what changes have been made in the file and who's made them. So I'm just going to highlight, I want to see this data. And you can highlight a subset of the data, whatever you need to look at. And I just right-clicked there. And then I'm going to go down here to show changes. And this is a really cool way, if folks can see the pane out on the right, that shows you who made what changes in what cell and what were the values before and after. So I see that Lee was down here in cell C21, which it's now, I click on here and it highlights my cell, right? He changed lost tool to broken pipe. That feels wrong. I think I'm going to go back and revert that to lost tool. And now we get this see new changes, and I can refresh that, and you can see my last changes now reflected in there. So this is a really great way if you've got a lot of people in a file, or even if you're just working with one other person and they're constantly making changes, and you want to be able to see what the values were before and after, you can easily do that.
So we got a couple more questions that have come in. Is there a limit to the number of changes that appear, like last 100 or last 1,000 changes?
I'm not sure what the limit is. That's a great question. Let me get back to my team and ask them about that.
Yeah, I'd also be curious just like how long it holds them, whether it's like a month, a year, or whatnot as well. One question I had for you specifically on these things is, as far as reverting changes there, is there or are you guys actually looking at giving an easier way to revert a change rather than actually looking at the card and having to go back and type, lost pool back in there? I just see huge potential for spelling mistakes and other things going in, and would much rather have a right click and just revert kind of option if it's possible.
That's a great piece of feedback, and something that we definitely look into for the future.
Cool. One other comment. Save workbook and other cloud drive services, or only SharePoint OneDrive for Business, asking for a friend. I think we've got the answer to that one, as it is only SharePoint OneDrive for Business, correct?
Yeah, SharePoint and OneDrive, yeah.
There you go. And can the changes be exported out for audit purposes?
That is also a great question. I don't know. I'll say no for now. But let me get back to my team and ask if there's a way that would be possible. That is a really good question.
Awesome. I think that's it for now.
Okay. Sorry, just taking some notes so I can ask my team. Awesome. And the last thing that I was going to show y'all that actually is you were mentioning what's a good way for me to, without just having to know that the tasks are all floating around in here for me. How can I see them all at once? Catch-up is a really great way to see where I've been tagged, where I've been mentioned, where the comments are on the file after I leave the file and come back. So over here, if I've left the file and Lee's tagged me like 20 times in this file all over the place, and it's a massive data file, Catch-up will pop up, and I can show you a screenshot of what that looks like in my deck in a couple minutes. And it'll tell you exactly where everything has been tagged and what you've been tagged in. So this is available. It's in the top right-hand corner, and it always exists there. And when you're up to date, it tells you, you're all caught up. While you're working with others, your changes will show up there.
Perfect. We got one more question for you too. In the future, will there be more integration between task functionality in MS Planner and tasks in Excel?
That is a great question. That is definitely something we would consider for the future.
I also have a question for you. How does it handle when somebody gets into the workbook and starts making 30 changes and tagging you in all of these things? Is there a limit to how many notifications you get during a day, or is there any control that we have as the receiver of this stuff so that I don't wake up on a Monday morning with 97 tags from one workbook in my inbox? Yeah,
that's actually a great question. We actually have some really cool logic on the back end that basically intelligently groups the comments and the mentions and things like that as you're getting them. So you're not getting like 20 emails. If somebody in the course of an hour tagged you like 30 times, you're getting one email, maybe two, depending on the gap between this person tagging you and all this stuff, and it's just got all of the comments and stuff in there for you. So so we intelligently group the notifications, especially if, for example, like you have a meeting where everyone is collaborating at the same time for an hour. After that meeting, you're probably going to get one email with all of the things that other people have tagged you and are commented in at you versus like 20 or 30 based on how many people you're collaborating with. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of. I actually had an experience earlier this year where I woke up and I think I had about 16 notifications for one file from a guy that was reviewing it. It's like, to say it wasn't a pleasant morning. So I'm sort of looking at it, trying to figure out, from my perspective and from the end user perspective, if I don't know how often these things go, but I mean, if I'm not online and logged in, I would almost rather get that email once I log into a web service, have it kick off or whatever else to give me that. And I'm sure you guys have enough AI on the back end that you could do that rather than be sending me one every 15 minutes or every 20 minutes, and overloading the inbox and whatnot. But anyway, just feature or feedback for you for future. There is another question here. Are there any plans to include timeline view for changes, to track changes or view changes over time, just so I can see what the original version was, how the data has changed over a period of time without having to download multiple versions of the document from OneDrive to SharePoint, comparing them using Compare?
That's a really interesting question. Right now, I'll have to get back to my team and ask them about that. I don't think that that's something that we've looked into quite yet, but that's really good feedback. The other option for like viewing changes over a period of time, like aside from show changes here, is to actually go into the backstage and look at version history. So what I mean by that is if you click File and then go to Info here, you can actually go to version history in the file. And we can see this is a file from September 1st, and this is the file from 3 minutes ago. So these are two different versions of the files. I know the question was, how do I avoid like having to download these two and then, comparing all the different edits between the two. But right now we don't have a great way to do that, but that is good feedback if that's something that would be of interest for folks.
I would definitely second the vote for that. Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks, folks. Those are the features that I have to demo today. And actually, this is pretty cool. You can see here, we have some helpful notifications. So this is a demo person's account. This is the first time Lee has seen show changes. He's never encountered the feature before. He's never used it before, but I've been making changes over here as Patty in this file. If Lee clicks show changes over here, then he can now see for the first time, hey, there are all these changes in this file and these are who made them. So that's how we're trying to kind of push folks and help them see, this is a better way that you can manage your workbook if maybe you didn't know that this was there.
Cool. A couple more questions we've got you got another vote for a timeline view here as well.
Awesome.
Probably the easy one to answer. Sue's asking, so is it available in Microsoft 365 for Enterprise?
Yes.
I'm going to ask what channel are these features available on right now? Like how current is what you're showing versus what's actually in public?
Everything here is production. So this right now, what I'm showing you is web production. I did show you like co-authoring and comments and mentions and things like that in desktop also, which is, so for web, that would be prod. For desktop, I think that's our, there's a lot of different spots that the features are in. I'll actually walk through a little bit like more granular, like this is the feature, this is the endpoints that it's available on and where it's available. So that might be helpful.
Cool. And then one other question we've got is presumably we can still lock certain cells for changes.
Locks a certain range of cells?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is great feedback. That is definitely something that we would look into for the future. Right now, you can't lock sets of ranges, but you can lock, we're working on, like in desktop, you can do sheet protection and you can do file level protection. And we're working to bring the sheet protection and to the web right now.
Another comment from Pranam is under changes, can I filter for changes made by specific users?
Can I filter for changes made by specific users? So we don't have the ability to filter for specific users, but that's really good feedback, and it's something that we consider for the future. You can filter by range over here and by the sheet that you're on. So that's currently what we have available. That's really great feedback, and that's definitely something that we'd consider for the future.
Do we color code do you color code changes by different users?
Color code changes by different users. We do not, but we do. We depict changes a little bit differently depending on the type of change. So you can see here, these are like editing changes. So Patty has edited this sheet 1 cell from this to this. Down here, Patty actually inserted a sheet, so you can see that it looks a little bit different here. So those are the only two kind of the big like user-facing differences that you would see. But if that's something that's of interest, like color coding based on, you know, the people that have made changes in the file. So I guess is the question, you know, can I color code the sheet or color code this show changes pane?
Yeah, I think if I can just sort of interpret and riff a little bit off of what Sue's asking here, and Pranam as well. You know, oftentimes when you get into a workbook and you're looking for a change, you got, you know, Tony we don't trust Tony. Tony's got in there and he's done some stuff. So we'd like a way to be able to try and filter down to figure out what the heck has Tony done to destroy the workbook, right?
Absolutely.
Like highlight all of Tony's changes, show me where they are on the sheet so I can go back and review everyone, because we just don't trust the guy, right? So that's sort of the I think the direction that all of us are sort of looking here.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says exactly. So
very compelling, definitely. No, that's definitely something that we look into for the future.
So this is good, folks. You keep this stuff coming, because Avani's on the team to actually get some of these things done, and this is fantastic. So
yeah, this is exactly what our team does. This is, and all of your feedback is going to go directly to them. So please keep sharing. I'm going to pull my deck back up.
Right.
But if you all have questions, feel free to continue asking. Come on. Sorry, sometimes my computer's a little bit slow. I'm due for an upgrade.
We love technology when it works, right?
Yeah, definitely. All right. Can you see my slides?
I can see your slides, you bet.
Awesome. Okay. Can I see my slides? Not yet.
I have to go back to the PowerPoint Collab team and ask them to increase the performance a bit, eh?
I think it's more of my computer. I'm really due for an upgrade. I've had this device since I started at Microsoft, which was almost 5 years ago. So yeah. Yeah, so now that I've shared the demo, I'm just going to dive into some of the specifics around the collaboration features that I just showed you, some of the details around how they work and what's coming next and what you can expect to see soon. So I wanted to walk you through the collaboration journey. I know folks here, like a lot of folks are collaborating. A lot of folks are collaborating in different ways, sending files to and fro maybe. But you know, there's often like a pattern of what we see people doing when they're collaborating in the file. And the basis of it, like our collaboration foundation, is cloud stored files, right? So files stored in OneDrive or SharePoint. Our foundation is also, you know, making sure that our co-authoring performance and reliability is awesome and top tier, because nobody wants to co-author in the file if it's, you know, not fast and not reliable. And we know that security and protection are really important to people. So the ability to co-author on label protected files. So when you have those files that are highly confidential or confidential, that your organization may specifically call them something different, but you know, the protection ability. You still want the goodness of being able to collaborate on those files, even though they're protected. And that is the core of what we want to offer you all here. So the beginning of the journey that we usually see is, you know, folks sharing into a file. Like we saw with Patty, we shared the file with her, and that's how she ended up entering the file. There's other ways that you can start your journey too, though, and I do want to share those just because some of them are not as well known. So when you put your files in the cloud, it unlocks so much more so much more goodness for the way that you store and manage your files today. So this is the web. This is office.com, the screenshot where it's from. I use this pretty regularly. It's where I start my journey if a file hasn't been directly shared to me, and go and begin my collaboration workflow. You can see here there's some really awesome views available for you. So you can see recommended files for you based on your work. So maybe a file that has been shared with you that a lot of people are working in. You can search for your files. So you can look through all of your cloud stored files on the office.com landing page, and you can see all files that have been shared with you. So I know that it's really painful for me to have to search through my email and my Teams to figure out, hey, where did that person share this file with me? I don't remember. I'm not sure where that is. If you go to office.com, it shows you where that file has been shared with you, and you can just click on it, open it in the web, or open it in desktop if that's what you want or prefer, and continue to work on it. And I also wanted to show the desktop version. I know we've got a lot of folks that are probably working in desktop today too. Working in desktop doesn't mean that you don't get the goodness of, having your files stored in the cloud and all of those great features too. If you go to the backstage, which our backstage, what we call it is when you click the file menu and then you go to the home tab. In the home tab, you see, all of these areas that help you manage and search through your files. So you can find relevant templates and browse tutorials at the top there under the new tab. You can search all of your files. You can see recommended files for you just like you could in office.com. And you can also pin files. So if you've got something that you're working in really heavily, like end of fiscal year numbers or something like that, you can pin that and just easily go back and re-access that. And you can also see files that have been shared with you too.
Avani, I don't know if this is your team, but I just noticed that the section on the new templates and the recommended for you is actually collapsible. I don't know when that happened, but whoever was responsible for it, please thank them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, glad that was useful. So we know sharing is also a really critical part of your workflow, and setting permissions is incredibly important. A lot of people, when they're collaborating, you want folks to color within the lines. You don't want folks to have an incorrect type of access to your file if that's not something that you want to do. If you have Tony that is in your file and he's up to shenanigans every time he's in your file, you want to be able to share that file with him in a way where he's not going to mess things up. And this is what editor view access is really great for. So what you can easily do from the share pane, and you can see that this is in SharePoint if you look at the backdrop of these GIFs, you can just type in a user's name, provide them edit or view access. So, if they're only allowed to view the file, then they can't make any edits to it. So you share that with Tony in view only mode, and he can't do any harm to your file. Something else that you can easily do, we find that, people make a link that they want to share their file with, and they share it with a bunch of folks, and then they say, oh, wait, actually, I want to go back and restrict my permissions a little bit on that link. You can actually go and do that in the link settings. You can change the type of the audience. So, people in my organization, everyone can see this file, specific people can see this file with whatever link that you shared, which makes it really easy to manage who you're sharing your file with. And some specific things that are coming soon. Changing permissions easily for a copy link. When you copy your link and you're about to go share it out with a bunch of folks, you want to be able to quickly change those permissions while you're sharing it out. We want to provide that really easily for you. And you can see the GIF on the left. That's what that experience will look like. And then seeing who you share with. We've gotten a lot of feedback that, it's kind of hard for me to see everybody who I've shared this file with. Like I'm not sure who I've shared this file with. That little nice UX at the bottom that's highlighted in a red box shows, all of the different users that you've shared the file with. And you can click on that and actually expand it out to see who you've shared it with. Managing access. So we now allow you to, we're working on allowing you to see not just like everybody that you provided access to, but like, organizing it in a nice fashion. So like I could see the people I provided access to, the groups and the links, and also see how they got access, which can be a really important part of the sharing workflow too. Like, oh, did somebody accidentally share this file in a way that they maybe shouldn't have? Or maybe I need to delete this link because some people are accessing this link who shouldn't.
Avani, are all these features, they're all coming? Are they coming to all the web versions as well as to desktop as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Managing shared access is huge. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, so this is available, the shared with editor view access, and all of this other stuff that's on this slide is what's coming next. I have a good article that I can share that links to feature tracking stuff too, if folks are interested in that.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, everybody here is always interested in new stuff coming up. So
yeah, definitely. And then I called this out when we were doing the demos, but the different modes at the top of the bar. You can turn your whole file into editing mode or viewing mode based on how like complete maybe you feel your file is. If it's still in editing mode, everyone's coming in and making edits and changes, but viewing mode definitely maybe your document is finalized and you're just sharing it out to execs or somebody to just take a look at. You don't want people poking around and messing in your file. This is a nice way to do that just in the ribbon of the UX. So going on to the next step in the collaboration journey. So now everyone's in their file together. We want you to work seamlessly together as you're all in the file. And some of these features I called out while I was demoing, but we'll just dive into them a little bit. So in Teams, as we're in Teams right now, we know that a lot of people are sharing files in Teams. You're copying the link, you're sharing it out to folks, you have it in SharePoint, and your SharePoint is linked to your Teams. Maybe you want to just open it directly from Teams instead of having to then go to your desktop and search for the file. One of the experiences we worked on is allowing you to choose your default open experience for your files in Teams. So if you are a person that prefers to open in the browser, you can do that. Or if you want to open in desktop, like there's a lot of folks that are, love working in desktop, you can do that. Or just open it in the Teams app. It allows you to do all of that. And we're constantly working on improving that performance of Excel working in Teams. So, as we're seeing more and more folks in this hybrid workplace, we know that the performance of all of our Office products working in Teams seamlessly is just going to be so critical to people's workflows. So we're constantly working on improving that. And then what's next? We're working on some more experience improvements. I will let y'all know when I can share more details about that. But for now, just know good things are coming.
Avani, we got one quick question here about the editing tab that you were showing in Excel Online. As far as the sharing interaction goes, when you share with someone and tell them that they only get viewing permission, what happens in desktop? Because there's no editing tab there.
What happens in desktop? It will still open in that view only mode, if I'm correct.
Because I'm thinking that like the classic Excel mode for doing view only was it would open read only recommended, but somebody could actually override that. So I guess we're just curious because I mean that whole sort of editing tab isn't available in desktop as far as I'm aware, unless you guys have done some changes there. So
yeah, no, we're working on bringing that to desktop as soon as possible. But for now, I'm fairly confident that it will open in desktop in read-only mode. It just you won't have that UX experience drop down that you'll see. Cool. I will double check that, but it should still be compatible. It's awesome. Not restricted.
Benjamin, hopefully that answered your question there. So
it's not available in desktop yet, is what I'll say. We're working on bringing that soon.
Fair enough.
Co-authoring fundamentals. So we've talked a little bit about all of these different features, but at the crux of what you're doing, you've just got multiple people in a file and you're editing the file at the same time. And we want that experience to be as seamless as possible, whether you're in desktop, in web, or in mobile, which you can do it across all of those endpoints or those platforms. So some of the things we focus on, reliability. We want to make sure that you're not getting any error messages or losing your data as you're co-authoring in a file. That, is obviously the worst experience that could happen. So we constantly are working to make sure that that's top tier. Speed. We want to make sure that your edits are appearing from others in real time, that you're getting like the most authentic collaboration experience that feels online. And then performance. We want to make sure that when others are joining and leaving the file, leaving you comments and, mentions and things, that you're able to see what they're doing and as soon as possible.
I think this is a perfect point to ask Pranam's question on edits. How does the undo button experience work during a co-authoring session? Do I get to undo just my own changes or other people's as well?
Just your changes. But using the, some of the features that I showed y'all earlier, you can see what changes other people have made and, undo them to an extent, go back and edit those. We're getting, into the point where, if you really want to undo somebody's changes, yeah, that would probably be the best way to do it.
Henry's also asking if there's a date timestamp on the changes as well. And I know that I've seen time, but what happens when you actually start rolling into multiple days with it?
There should still be a date and a time on show changes, which is the feature that I showed you. That was that little call out pane. In version history, it will start to lump some of those changes into like a period of time. So it'll say this is a file from 3 days ago. So all the changes that were made 3 days ago is in this version of the file. But show changes should show you like when that person made that change in the file.
And does it show in local time zone or UTC or something, whatever the server is at? What's the time zone that it actually uses for display?
That is a great question. Right now we have like the period of time ago that that your change was made. Let me just ask. Let me just make a note to ask that.
I'm fairly certain that it shows in your local time zone. The question for me is always what the local time zone is when you open up a web browser versus your desktop, and whether or not the web browser is actually observing it properly. That's the question. But it would be better to get an answer from you guys on that rather than my conjecture. So
yeah, no, I from that perspective, I'm fairly certain that the web browser should be respecting your local time zone, but I will double check on like the exact date timestamp and how that renders over a longer period of time. I think there was a lot of questions on like, okay, longer than like a day ago or like several days ago, months ago, years ago, like how do those changes show up? And I'll make sure to get back to my team on what that looks like.
Speaking of that, Avani, is there any option in there to actually say, can you please show me the actual real date and time rather than X hours ago?
Right now there's not, but if that's something that folks would like to see, I can take that feedback back to our team too.
I don't like mathing when I'm trying to figure out when things were done. So personally,
yeah.
Maybe I'm just lazy. So somebody says local time zone might not work. If you're working multiple time zones, I might see a change that's done tomorrow compared to where I am. Well, I think that's kind of the idea, Pranam, is that the changes that you actually see are always
relative to where you are.
Yeah. Relative to where you are, yeah. So that you don't end up with that challenge. Because I mean, I know I got a partner in Australia, and trying to organize a webcast was a nightmare because we were working on different days. But and that's, I think, the exact thing they're trying to avoid.
Yeah, I think it would be really confusing to be like, this change was made tomorrow.
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
Not the experience you want. So presence, you kind of saw when I was sharing the demo a little bit earlier, you saw, the little icons that were kind of floating around the cells, and in the top right-hand corner that told you who else is in your file and where are they editing. This is a really great way to be able to tell who is where, what are they doing? Are they actually editing right now? You see those little like dancing dots, like somebody's typing, like the way you do when you're sending a text message. When multiple people are in a cell, you can kind of hover over that cell and all of their names will drop down so you can see who all is editing in a cell at the same time. So if you're fighting with, Tony, who's making changes he shouldn't, you can hover over it and see that he's in that cell too, and see where he's editing. And then what's next coming for Presence is just continuing to improve the performance and reliability of that experience, and doing that across all of our platforms. So I showed you a little demo of Sheet View, but the real benefit of this here is I'm sure everyone here has been in a file, and if you've collaborated with others, you've probably been in a situation where you've sorted or filtered your data and felt like all of your data disappeared because you didn't know somebody else had sorted it. That's feedback that we heard from so many people collaborating. It just made collaboration almost impossible for them in large data sets. So Sheet View is a feature that's specifically here to help with that, and it is available on web and desktop. With everyone in the file with a Sheet View, so if I'm in a file and Ken's in a file and we're sitting in our Sheet Views, we can sort and filter the data and not stomp all over each other while we're doing that. So I can see the data that I'm interested in, Ken can see the data he's interested in, and we can make the edits where we want to. So it's one of those features that really helps with collaboration, especially in like large data sets. Another piece of feedback that we got from users is that they didn't feel like it was completely useful to them unless they could group or hide rows and columns in their Sheet View. We actually worked on that very recently, and that is now available for users to actually use in a Sheet View. So you can now group columns and rows and hide columns and rows in your Sheet View. Other things that we've been working on for Sheet View are also we want to help folks get into Sheet View when we feel like it's going to be beneficial to them. So if there's lots of people in a file and you're sorting and filtering, there's a very likely chance that you're going to encounter the situation that we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, where you've sorted and filtered your data and somebody else didn't realize you did that and they think it's gone. So we want to help people get into Sheet Views when possible, and obviously ensure that they know that they're there, but help them get into a state that will let them continue their work seamlessly. So that's some other pieces of work that we worked on. And lastly, what's coming next for Sheet View is we're bringing it to mobile. So you'll see it on iOS, Android, and iPad soon. Suggested to rename the sheet and Sheet View, kind of confusing with Worksheet. Custom View. There are already custom views. Yes, those are different. There was a lot of, it's really funny. There was a long history on like naming Sheet Views. There was a lot of different things that folks wanted to name it. We ended up on Sheet View just because it was just another view of your sheet. So, and when we go through the rounds of making sure that we could test this stuff with user groups and making sure that it makes sense to folks, this was the one that, of all the names that we were thinking about, made the most sense. But I can definitely understand the confusion. So, those are some features that help you while there's multiple people in the file at the same time. So, as you're all in the file at the same time, the next thing you want to do is be able to communicate with each other. The easiest way to do that is through comments, mentions, tasks, and notifications. So I'll talk a little bit about that. You can, sorry, my computer froze for a second there. Yeah, so comments, notes, mentions, and notifications are all available on Excel desktop and Excel on the web now. So if you want to start a conversation with somebody, you can mention them and start the conversation, and you can continue in that threaded conversation. So if you see that little number 1 highlighted on that image, you can see that Joni Sherman actually responded to Alex Wilbur, and you can see a nice little threaded conversation. So you can continue to reply in that conversation rather than seeing like multiple comments on the same cell or them floating separately. So you get a very contextual conversation that you can have in Excel. What's also really nice is this comment's floating on top of the cell that you are commenting on. You don't want this like off to the side in a different pane. You want this like on top of the information that you want somebody else to see. So, we've made it so that, it pops up just right there. It floats right on top of the content you want to see. We also heard a lot of feedback that folks use notes for annotations in desktop, and notes were not available until on the web until very recently, but they're now available, and you can add any sort of instructions or annotations that you want to your file using that today in the web too. And then another thing that I showed y'all in the demo was when your app mentioned, you actually get an email notification, but not only that, you can just reply within the email. You don't have to like wait and open the file or, you know, even go to the file if you feel like it's not necessary to the conversation that you're having. So that's something that we've done just to help you make your workflow a lot quicker. And we're always working on improving comments, notes, and the mentions experience. So you can expect to see more improvements in the future too. So I also showed tasks when we were doing our demo, and tasks are really great because you can actually assign them to somebody and they're forced to complete them, to mark them like, I've completed this task, I've done what you've asked me to do. So if you have something that you want someone to look at and you want them to actually like mark off, like, I've completed this thing that you asked me to look at, this is a great way to go about doing that. And currently we have support for tasks on the web. We are working to bring that to other platforms as soon as we can. And we're also looking at additional experience improvements. I've heard some feedback from folks like, you know, it would be great to see this work with Planner a little bit better. Definitely taking that into consideration for the future. So we'll definitely take that feedback back to our team. I think the richness now means we're running out of names. Yes. Excel is very feature rich. So like we said, it's your Swiss Army knife of apps. So lastly, you know, understanding and managing your changes. I showed you a little demo of some of these features. We'll talk a little bit more about them now. So there's really two types of changes that you're looking at when you're looking at your file, right? You're either proactively trying to prevent unwanted changes before they happen in your file. So maybe you're locking down your workbook or your sheets to prevent unwanted people from making changes to the file that you don't want to happen, or you're using that interactive mode switcher in the web to prevent folks from editing a file you don't want edited, versus reactive. So, you know, I come back to a file and I see a ton of changes have been made, and I want to catch up on my changes. I want to see all the changes and look through the version history. We have features that support doing both of those things. So this catch-up experience. So I mentioned before, you know, we got the little notification during my demo that we were all caught up because we had been sitting in the file, we hadn't left it. When you leave the file and come back and somebody's, you know, mentioned you or replied to a comment or tagged you, you get this nice little activity pane on the right-hand side. It says activities to catch up on, and you can see that it tells you like when those folks mentioned you, and you can click and like actually go to the spots that they mentioned you in. So this is like a really nice spot, especially like if you've left a file that's highly collaborative and you're coming back to it and want to know like what's relevant for me, like a bunch of changes got made, but what do I need to do? This is a really good spot to go and check that out. And this experience is consistent across Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So, you know, it's not just available for Excel. You can do this in the other apps too. And lastly, show changes. This is the one that folks had a lot of really great feedback on, you know, tracking changes from other collaborators in the file on the web. The next thing that we're doing is we're bringing this to desktop. This is available on the web right now. Bringing it to other platforms, so including, you know, desktop and mobile. And we're also working on tons of experience improvements for this because we just know how valuable this will be for folks when they're collaborating. And thank y'all for all of your feedback. I'll definitely take this back to our PM that owns this feature, and you can take that into account as they're working on it in the future. All right, so that's what I've got for today, folks. Thank you so much for your time. If folks have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now, or feel free to type them in the chat. Is there anything else?
We do have another one here from Henry asking if there's a concept for workbook governance to assign a single user as the owner of a workbook, for example.
Right now, I'm trying to think of the best way that you would do that. Like there's different ways that you could do that, like through when you share the file, and like how you provide access to it. I think that's
I can give you my spin on this, and I would
yeah.
say personally that the answer right now is no. It's not like, you know, we're with Power BI where you've got one person that publishes a report. So basically at that point in time, they've got to come back to that person. I mean, the challenge that Excel's had for a long time is that once the horse is out of the barn, it's gone, and there's no way of getting it back. There could be 67 versions of the truth floating out there because everybody makes a copy and whatnot. And I think that's where Henry's sort of going here is there a way that we can get a fence back around the horses before we actually end up having that? And right now, it's really just a policy thing inside your own organization that you have to hope people adhere to. My answer to that is share through Power BI, not through just email or file share or whatnot. But it is something that if Microsoft were able to invest in to be able to actually have that chain of custody and command would be a very, very useful thing. So
yeah, definitely. I think exactly what you said. The only other, there's no way to like say that like Avani owns this file and nobody else can, like if I've shared it with other people, then other people can edit it. Like I've given them that access to. What you can do is revoke that access, change it to view only, do things to prevent people to come into your file and edit it. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's not me. There's nothing stamped on it that says like this is Avani's file and you can't. I don't know what exactly else would be trying to do with that, but yeah, there's like no stamp on it that says that.
It is interesting though. I mean, you're with the ability to actually share and have somebody as a viewing rights only. I mean, you guys are getting closer to it, right? So, you know, because that hasn't really existed in the past. So, I mean, I'd say it looks positive.
Yeah, and I will say, like with that, like there's so many other, especially like permission related and like access related things that, you know, we're investigating and are looking to work on in the future. So that's definitely like top of mind and is highly asked for from a lot of people.
Cool. I have a question for you too, and unfortunately, this is probably not the. I love looking at all the new stuff, but my big question is, what still breaks the collab story that or co-authoring story that we actually have? Because I know for the longest time, when we went into say edit a power query, suddenly we would be kicked out of a co-auth session because you couldn't be doing that, or editing a power pivot model. So is there any progress on those components, or are they still kind of a blocking issue that you can't be editing and still have multiple people in the workbook at the same time?
You said when you're using Power Query specifically?
If I'm editing Power Queries, not just doing a refresh, but actually building a Power Query stack or changing some of the queries behind the actual data flow that's inside the workbook. Yeah.
I definitely know that, you know, with some of the more advanced BI workflows, you know, specifically with Power Query 2, not we are looking to improve how optimized our collaboration experiences are for those BI workflows. So I definitely know that there are probably some gaps there. Like I specifically work on the sheet view feature. I know that sheet view there's some things that we'd like to improve with like how it works with pivot tables and Power Query, but it's hard for me to like address like each of the features, but like I definitely think that there's room for improvement if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, well, it's just the you know, I love being in a co-op session with somebody on certain workbooks and working on it, but then it's like, oh, I got to edit the Power Query, and on next thing you know, it's like,
kick them out.
Oh,
yeah.
Got to get out, guys, everybody out, because I need to be able to work on this file story. You can't update that data cell on the sheet that's totally irrelevant to what I'm doing, and it'd be nice to be able to see it get into that part where it says, look, somebody's editing this, so you can't do a refresh right now, but at least you can still edit the worksheets or look at the reports or whatever else. So that's still a gap, and from my experience, it's both when you're in editing Power Query as well as when you're in editing Power Pivot components of those workbooks. That's still a challenge. And I say, for me personally, that's about 95% of the work I do. So it's definitely a pain point that's out there. So We've got a question. Can I access comments through the Office script framework? Hopefully I can create a script to export the comments or changes out to a log file for auditing.
Yeah, getting a lot of auditing questions on how we can like scrape the changes and the comments and stuff like that. They're really good questions. I am not 100% sure about being able to access comments through Office scripts. Let me get back to the owner. I'm literally writing all these questions down. I promise I'll get back to y'all and let you know.
Awesome, thank you. All right, do we have any other questions on this? I just want to say a big thanks, Avani, for the presentation here. I mean, this is fantastic stuff. It's once again just mind-blowing to see how far you guys have come in the last few years. I mean, I know I've been looking at Collab and co-auth with you guys since it was actually in its infancy, and it is mind-blowing just how far you guys have come in this time. And I know how much you guys have plans still to come. And I really appreciate you coming and taking the time with our groups to show all of these cool features and the stuff that's actually happening. It's super useful and really appreciated. And definitely appreciate you taking all the feedback from the crew here as well. Is awesome. So thank you a ton for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like happy to have presented to y'all, and thanks for having so many questions and being a great engaged audience. I really appreciate it. And feel free to ping this team chat with more questions. Let me know if y'all have more questions. I definitely will take these back to our team, and I can reply via email and just let you know what some of the answers to these are.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so I think what we can do is we can actually shut this one down, and I'll say once again, thanks for the great presentation here. I really appreciate you coming in and whatnot, and yeah, we'll look forward to seeing some of the answers to those things and seeing the new features that you guys are developing. This is just awesome stuff. So thanks so much for your time, Avani. I really appreciate it. And
yeah, no problem.
Hopefully someday we'll get to do this in person.
Hopefully so. Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Hopefully we'll see you at the next meetup in a couple of weeks with Peter Myers talking about Power BI stuff. So we'll see y'all soon.